Today, we will be looking at the ecology of the red terrors of the sky, better known as red dragons. Dragons have shaped much of real-life mythology, the Forgotten Realms, and the vast multiverse of D&D. And red dragons are some of the most prominent to be featured in nearly every fantastical tale. So, to truly understand these majestic beings, we have to go back all the way to their very beginning, to the start of the first world. Hi, my name is Tom, and this is the ecology of red dragons. As I was returning home from my ecological studies, something quite frustrating had happened. On one of my many journeys, I received a little tube, thinking it was a mere trinket. As it turns out, it was a fire genie, and that had actually been its rather ugly-looking lamp. Well, long story short, the entirety of the chromatic studies I previously concluded needs to be reworked. Thank you for burning my prior work, you of the tube. That was definitely exactly what I needed. Either way, this provides me ample opportunity to present the chromatic dragons in a more neutral light, so to speak. There have been plenty of people who thought I was bought out by blue dragons, especially for a positive review, which did not happen. I might be slightly biased, but that's from the information gathered from my studies, not because of the coin. But today, we will look into some of our previous questions and expand upon them a bit more. Besides today's subject, the red dragons, we will also quickly delve into general biological aspects of what makes dragons, well, dragons, how they function, why they function, and of course, how the chromatics see the events of their creation. To begin, we must first address the origins of all dragons across the multiverse. The first world. You see, before the creation of the material plane as we know it, there was once a singular universe, a plane created by the combined efforts of Bahamut the Platinum Dragon and Tiamat the Dragon Queen. Here, dragonkind as we know it was magically created to inhabit this beautiful and pristine realm. It wasn't just metallic and chromatic dragons either, but countless other groups and lesser kinds. For lack of a better term, a giant ecosystem of creatures that already shared similar traits and forms. While the creation of the twin dragon gods lived in relative peace for eons, the appearance of the outer gods and their minions caused a great war. The elves, orcs, dwarves, and even humans were forcibly mustered into armies to conquer the draconic realm. Some fought in the name of their gods, while others marched in shackles as fodder. Yet no matter how formidable the defences of the dragons were, the First World slowly crumbled and decayed. Valiant dragons fought to their last breath while their deities were withered down. While Bahamut might have escaped the destruction of their home, Tiamat was tormented, bound and dragged into the deepest pits of hell, forever bound and forced to do nothing but rage for the rest of her existence. Following the destruction of their home, its fragments were flung far and wide, each resulting in the manifestation of a new universe. Quite literally, the material plane is described by many scholars, historians, and sorcerers as the sum total of remnants of this ancient draconic world. Every single time a new piece breaks off from one another, a parallel world is created. And in each one, many vengeful dragons sing of a world that once was. Many people would describe a dragon as a massive creature, capable of not only impressive feats of raw strength, but also of magical power. These reptiles with razor-sharp teeth capable of snapping steel in two, bulging muscles that can topple a castle wall with a single punch, plate-like scales that endure even the ceaseless fire of catapults and cannons, powerful wings that can sweep away whole houses with a single flap. And lastly, their ability to belch elemental energies forth, torching, freezing, decaying, or cracking whole towns into nothing but ruin. As much as this might be true from a simple outside perspective, there is much more to these beings. In truth, they are as complex as they are physically wide. A single wrong step when interacting with these behemoths could mean the death of your entire town. Funnily enough, one of the more important aspects of dragonkind is that they are not actually reptiles. Far from it. In reality, while yes, they might look close on the surface due to their keratin scales, it is pretty much the only aspect one could compare them on. I do have to admit, however, that in certain universes they are related to reptiles, but more so in a sense that they evolved from dragons over the ages, rather than being part of the same evolutionary ladder. Anyway, looking past a dragon's scales, we can see just how weird their biology is. The wings of a chromatic dragon share the same skeletal structure as those of birds, yet rather than plumage they grow a thick, leathery membrane like that of bats. Their legs are even weirder, as most species have a foot shape closer to that of a bird of prey, kind of like the talons of an eagle or a hawk. Still, they can walk, run, and even, in the case of certain draconic species, jump. Moving to their facial structure, it can range anywhere between avian and that of a feline. Silver dragons have a plated beak-like mouth, while blue dragons are almost cat-like. Some dragons even have small face frills like whiskers. Chromatic dragons also share the trait of having feline-like irises. By comparison, metallics lose their eye structure entirely, appearing as dull metal orbs once they become adults. No matter the draconic family, however, all of them have an extra eyelid to protect against dirt and debris. Some even use these protective layers to see properly when submerged underwater. Honestly, in many ways dragonkind could be described in similar ways to chimeras. While certain parts of them may be similar to different parts from other various species, it seems like dragons were cobbled together from all sorts of different things. In reality, that is technically speaking the opposite, as most species came after dragons. So I guess we're the weird ones if we were in their shoes, or claws, or something. Another peculiar aspect about dragons is that their blood does not match that of any other living creature. Theirs is imbued with such a potent level of magical power that it represents the environment that each species calls its own. Well, more specifically, the breath weapon they produce, and, by extension, their own habitats. But before we get into that, each dragon species has its own traits when it comes to the temperature of their blood. Dragons that live in cold climates such as the Arctic, cold oceans, or tigers will naturally have it be innately cold, freezing to the touch. Those species that live in warm regions such as deserts or volcanoes are the opposite, having hot, almost boiling blood. Now, the reason behind this is rather strange. Magical traits regarding what courses through their veins is the direct result of their existence as magical anchors. You see, every individual naturally shapes the world around themselves. Magic flows and blossoms around them as they siphon magic from the environment, no different from how most things breathe oxygen. A direct byproduct of this is the natural changes in the environment around a draconic lair. Certain regions might experience blooms and unnatural growths. Others might see themselves blighted and ecosystems collapse over the span of a few days. While they might, to a degree, be able to manipulate these passive abilities, they cannot prevent them from occurring. Whether they like it or not, a black dragon will inadvertently poison a local well. On a side note, there is also the case that dragons without magic revert to animalistic forms. Their intelligence is also partially linked to the presence of magic. Without it, most dragon species will die out fast. The unique ability they possess, known as dragon sight, is another good example of just how magically infused they are, even the weakest dragons. In essence, depending on the individual, they have a native sixth sense that allows them to feel, hear, or even interact with alternate versions of themselves across the multiverse. If, say, you were to be a dragon, a potent one at that, you could see multiple versions of yourself. Some young, some old. Some might be a whole different type of dragon. Many dragons that can manipulate this sense to its extreme can and will try planning for events greater than lesser mortals or humanoids could ever hope to understand. There is also the occasional bad apple, such as a charlatan, who goes from universe to universe to kill and absorb another iteration of himself to grow more powerful and evil. But that's beside the point. Diving into their interior biology, there isn't much from the ordinary, save the chimeric randomness of their internal organs. For lack of a better term, they cannot decide what clade they want to be a part of. Avian, reptile, mammal. They kind of decided to throw a bit of everything in and just call it a day. I am not even beating this proverbial dead horse either. Their ear canals are small pinholes hidden beneath either scales or massive plated frills on both sides of their skulls. They also use their tongues on occasion to smell or sense changes in temperature. Both of these are the primary traits of snakes. Furthermore, some species across the multiverse struggle with mastication. Their jaw structure, while it can be used to bite hard and break bone, or to cut through cartilage like a knife through butter, is unable to chew. Some species, such as certain red and white dragons, have to go out of their way to devour stones to help their gastric acid break down their meals. Besides the rock part, this is a crocodilian trait. By the way, for anyone thinking about trying to tie a dragon's mouth down, that absolutely will not work. I mean, they have a jaw powerful enough to split a man in twain, so they will just easily open it again. Returning quickly to the topic of their magical abilities, their heart is by far the most important aspect. Close in shape to that of a human's or a boar's, this arteriolar organ not only pumps the blood required for the transport of oxygen throughout the body, but also the raw magical energies naturally absorbed. So powerful are their heart muscles that a dragon could turn stone into dust with a singular muscular contraction. As a reference, a human heart can and will break one's ribcage in freak cases. This natural magical flow throughout their veins is also the reason behind their breath weapon. Each species, and I guess subspecies in certain cases, has the specific attunement to the weave of magic. An acid-attuned dragon will naturally slowly accumulate said elemental energies within a special organ dedicated as a two-step storage compartment. This organ, known as a gizzard, stores their breath weapon in two states. The first condenses the breath weapon into an idle state, while the second chamber of the gizzard separates a quantity to release via a small hole within the dragon's mouth. Lastly, we will touch upon the ability of a dragon to fly, which by far is the most unrealistic part of their whimsical nature. By virtue of shape, size, and weight, neither their wings nor their physiology should allow them to fly at all, let alone with the grace and speed with which they do. This, in part, is attributed not only to their magical property that makes them perhaps a third as light as they should be, but also to the fact that their lungs are similar to those of birds, which take up most of the space within their chest cavity. All the draconics have to do is breathe in a lot of air, and suddenly they become more buoyant. Still, weight loss magic does the heavy lifting. There is also the case of the organ known as the fundamentum, which is a big vein that helps pump blood and oxygen throughout the dragon at low altitudes. While this might not be as interesting, there is the fun fact that ancient scholars mistook this for the source of their power. So yeah, there is that as well. Chromatic dragons are impulsive creatures. Each species is born with a powerful drive to follow its instinctual nature for survival. Without the ability to stop themselves or contain these sudden mental shifts, they return to aggressive and primitive states. To many scholars, chromatics are considered more beasts than people due to their tendency to devolve into apex predators. The psychology of chromatic dragons forces them onto dark paths, as many suffer from forms of sociopathy or psychopathy. Red dragons are the perfect representation of these impulses. As the largest and strongest of the chromatic family, reds do not shy away from their desire for carnage, power, and wealth. Their natural instincts force red dragons to covet coin and victory, no matter how many corpses they must create in the process. This species thrives in perpetual war, slaughtering everything they come across, including their own kind. Over generations, red dragons have devolved from martial warriors known for an ill temper into relentless butchers that demand everything they see as lesser than them to submit to their might. Each red dragon dreams that one day they will become a king or queen, ruling over massive swathes of land with an iron claw as they perpetually expand towards an endless horizon, growing ever richer and ever more victorious. Sadly, most of their complexity and philosophy, both as a species and individuals, is primarily bound by their innate wrath and avarice. While to many, red dragons might be one-dimensional, they are much more than they let on. In brief moments of clarity, when the desire for conquest or natural contempt for everything is tempered, Reds reveal themselves as some of the most intelligent and wise draconic races. If an individual were to put their mind to bettering the world, then that dragon would go far, making the material plane a far better place. For the most part, red dragons find themselves channeling their intelligence into warfare. They study battle tactics, practice moves, and perpetually plot and scheme new fortifications for their homes. Each and every moment not spent outside their lair or sleeping is given to fully preparing themselves for the future ahead. As a whole, all dragons live by the ideals of might makes right, and only the strong should rule. Despite their preference for violence, red dragons can and will barter with mortal kingdoms in exchange for protection. Most of the time, however, it refers to how these civilizations have settled on the dragon's own territory. Unless they want to be burned to a crisp, these people have either the choice of leaving the territory, paying a large sum of their wealth in exchange for protection, or sacrificing their own people to appease the dragon. Essentially, a result of their extreme form of arrogance as well. Because of their inherent obsession with wealth, these draconics go out of their way to find any way possible to earn more of the treasure they love. Between extortion, murder, and conquest, their brawn is the primary way through which they obtain whatever they might desire, especially their favourite little gold coins. Despite their greedy and quick-to-anger nature, not every red dragon is as malevolent or territorial as the stereotypical example. Many benevolent or even nice reds exist across the multiverse, taking the form of humanoids or as a simple hermit dragon within their home habitats. Most of the lives of these good red dragons are spent as teachers and mentors for anyone wishing to study the blade. While they might be rather rude or cruel in their way of teaching, they only seek the best for their students, as demanded by their strict code of honor. Even so, these reformed dragons retain their predisposition for getting bloody, and as such, their mentality never leaves the ideal of living and dying by the sword. In terms of their appearance, red dragons are known for their bright red scales. While at birth these might be glossy and vibrant, with age they dull and turn a very dark red. Some specimens are known to be almost black, with only a distinct red sheen visible in the brightest of lights. Overall, their scale variation can range from any hue of red to even mild, almost purple colorations. When it comes to their physical features, red dragons are known to be the most well-built. Their sheer width, size, and wingspans are the largest and most extreme across all of dragonkind. In terms of horns, most reds have a pair of backwards-facing horns that are visible even from below. Normally, these can range anywhere between cream and black, and on occasion have even been curved like the horns of a ram. As a species, red dragons have the most variety in terms of external growths. Some can even have large head frills that make them look more like an aquatic species than a volcanically based group. As for their breath weapon, red dragons are known for having the most iconic type of elemental breath, a cone of fire that extends up to 18 meters. Despite being rather bland when compared with the more eccentric species one might come across, it is by far the most reliable. Sometimes quickly torching an entire city is a better, more efficient choice, especially when it needs to be constantly used. In part, it is also why they smell like gunpowder or sulfur. Due to their status as apex predators, even among the vastness of dragonkind, red dragons have developed a rather simple, brutish, but efficient method of politics. Within their species, everything from food and territory to unpaid interns and even mates must be fought for. This is a form of genetic manipulation. By forcing competing males and females to eliminate the weakest specimens from the gene pool perpetually, it allows the wider species to evolve into a constantly stronger iteration with each generation. Now, granted, this does cause a plethora of side effects, such as most individuals becoming more violent and hormone-driven. Despite their constant bickering and infighting, the society of red dragons is much more than beating one another like cave dragons. Every day, between their martial training, flaunting of wealth, and torching of an unpaid intern who chose to unionize, the average red dragon studies its position within the species pecking order, much like a score ladder, with every individual being compared to the rest of the species. Their territories, wealth, number of servants, and history of victories are carefully noted down and envied, or pitied upon, depending on the rank disparity. Because of how tough and competitive this ladder is, most red dragons actually keep a careful eye through the use of informants, but those tend to be torched if they bring bad news. I mean, obviously there's nothing more upsetting than hearing that your rival has beaten you by like 2 gold coins and a bucket of lava. Now, most draconic species tend to inhabit territories about 70 to 100 miles apart. While typically there is a lot of overlap that is begrudgingly accepted or downright enjoyed, red dragons are known to hate anything that dares to tread unannounced upon their territory. A city that was built before the dragon even settled there tragically does still count. Overall, due to their brutish approach, most clashes between reds and other species tend to be common and almost always deadly. While it might seem as if these dragons are too bullheaded for their own good, they are actually very smart. They calculate the risk of every battle, process whether it's worth it to fight, and if they determine that they have a high chance of success, they will viciously burn and cut anything that dares to challenge their authority. This also mostly occurs because they so happen to be one of the strongest kinds of common draconics. I also need to mention that their confidence is also heavily skewed. The constant fighting that has also inadvertently made them so strong has also caused them to mistake everything as a threat. A female and male red dragon might try to raise a clutch of eggs, but instead fight because they share the same general rank within their society. If one can beat the other, that means leveling up to the next level of prestige, and fewer people would be willing to mess with them. This is also in part why they are so obsessed with gold. The Lair of a dragon is also a magical siphon as well as storage. While I do not understand exactly how this works, the moment a dragon amasses a lot of material wealth, they start to become stronger than their age or physical body should allow. In a way, it amplifies and feeds into the dragon's innate desire to become better in every way. Red dragons merely take this to the extreme. They even count the number of gold coins in their pile to guarantee their bulking is not delayed. I do need to make a note that as long as you do not annoy your red dragon patron, you will most likely not be harmed. They are kind of neutral most of the time. As the chromatic dragons with the most indentured workers, reds do tend to have the most spacious underlying quarters. Some are even known to be great landlords, and might at times choose to reward and care for their minions. Lastly, I do need to state that at some point in their lives, red dragons become lax and dismissive. Once their last rival is slain, or they have managed to reach the peak of their society, there is simply no reason to worry about anything. All that is left in their mind is weakling ants. However, this disregard more often than not proves to be their doom. Even the mightiest creatures should know that monkeys together strong. For the second time in my life, I must now infiltrate this red dragon's lair for an ecological study. Unlike last time, however, I know to avoid the magma fumes and the big clouds of black smoke. That, and, well, not to hit the door of the dragon's lair face first. Awful embarrassment aside, the biology of reds allows this species to exist in the hottest natural environments on the material plane, from savannas and deserts to volcanic regions, which are by far their favourite. A red dragon is pretty much attracted to places flowing with lava, like how a mosquito is attracted to blood. While there might be the odd individual known to thrive in cold habitats, they are the exception that proves the rule. Either way, red dragons seek not only a defensible position where they can safely care for their wormlings, but also a locale that can showcase their might and prestige. Older dragons of any species tend to have the best environments and territories for their respective species. A young red dragon needs to be darn lucky to manage to snag a spot within a volcano chain, but on average a red dragon is probably in some humble cavern within an arid biome. Still, no matter where they settle, they will have access to a high vantage point from where they can gloat as they watch over their territory. No matter where they might decide to settle, however, every red dragon worthy of their societal rank will decorate their lair in a particular way. From pits of lava, perpetually burning fires, floors of obsidian, and even, on occasion, private steaming geysers. The dragon I am revisiting today seems to have modernized a bit, even embedding red gems into the wall and replacing the flooring with a cleaner obsidian. Besides generic traps, these general lair add-ons act as deterrents that more often than not burn intruders to a crisp for the dragon. In terms of their hoards, red dragons are actually pretty simple. They take everything valuable and fire resistant, so there's a lot of metal and rock, like coins, bars, statues and busts. They do have a specific obsession with shiny gold coins, since they really enjoy looking at the colour as it shimmers. Similarly, they tend to have plenty of orange and red gems, like rubies and fire opals. Moving to their reproduction, reds are actually scared of confrontation when looking for mates. Males rarely compete and actually run at the first sight of a bigger or older individual. While fighting for material gain or status might mean everything to them, finding a spouse seems to be where they draw the line. Granted, that is when they are the most violent, so they would probably die if a lesser male tried to fight back. On average, the result of these competitions has resulted in a standard of pairings between an elder dragon and a younger adult. With the help of an experienced parent, the chance of survival for their eggs grows as a result. In rarer cases, similarly aged red dragons can form mating pairs, but there is the distinct possibility that they might instead kill one another because they see each other as competition. Either way, the eggs of reds need to be placed into a raging fire, or at minimum, a temperature of 60 degrees Celsius for 660 days. When hatched, each clutch of eggs produces between 2 and 5 wormlings that must compete for their parent's affection. Much like storks, any weak offspring or runt will be killed, allowing for the maximum amount of resources to be given to the few that are guaranteed to reach adulthood. Once they do, they are pretty much never seen again, as each adult individual becomes competition for their parents. Red dragons are an omnivorous species capable of consuming minerals, vegetation, and flesh. Yet, despite their varied appetites, most individuals primarily consume meat, especially from humanoids such as elves and humans. Some even go out of their way to choose to starve rather than to eat anything else. In the case of their wormlings, most of their hunts are done at night to allow themselves to blend in with the forest. Most of their prey tends to be small and medium-sized game until they grow large enough in size to take on bigger challenges. Now, much like any other voracious predator, dragons are a major danger to the ecosystem. The sheer amount of food required to keep even a beast that can rely on other sources to satiate themselves can destroy vast ecosystems. Many species are careful as a result, including several of the chromatic family. Red dragons, however, are a bit of a special case. Not only do these draconics set entire forests on fire, burning them without mercy due to their fondness for scorched flesh and a sense of superiority, but they also disregard most forms of life. Similarly, they neither tend to care for the subjects that they intimidate coin from, forcing whole kingdoms to go bankrupt or suffer a fate worse than death. While red dragons might be brilliant and talented in many ways, their brutish nature forces them into a primitive and easily manipulated state. Maybe one day, in the distant future, their species could be polished like a diamond and set free of their avarice and anger. But until then, maybe don't build your house out of kindling, and definitely just hand over your coin pouch. Hi, my name's Tom, and I'm the narrator for the channel. I'd just like to end the video by giving a massive thank you to Alex, our editor, and to Axe, our researcher and scriptwriter. without whom the video you just enjoyed would not be possible. This channel is made for humans, by humans, which means that we read the books ourselves, we write the scripts ourselves and research them ourselves, as well as record them ourselves. There is no AI used at any point during our process, and that's the way we'd like it to stay. If you'd like to support us and help us create more videos, please consider liking and subscribing. The support you've shown already has been absolutely tremendous, and we'd love to continue to make more videos for you, diving into all sorts of topics within the D&D ecology verse, and maybe covering other RPG settings. Anyway, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time.